the magically appearing ballots in Arizona. We've got to stop the count. Okay, which of course he tweeted in a panic this morning too. But Donald, stop the count where? And that leads to the funniest thing you'll ever hear. In Pennsylvania, Trump supporters are chanting outside of the ballot centers, "Stop the count, stop the count." In Arizona, Trump supporters are chanting, "Count the votes, count the votes, count the votes."
That is the Detroit Convention Center. Michigan officials are adding up the final votes there. Trump supporters protesting the count had to be held back from entering the tally room by a strong police presence. CBC News and major U.S. networks have called Joe Biden the winner in that state. It's a victory that secures 16 electoral college votes for him. Trump campaign lawyers have launched a lawsuit now. They're demanding an immediate halt to the vote count.
Now, as the counting of ballots was unfolding yesterday, though, as you mentioned, the Trump campaign filing this court action, which alleges that in numerous locations, it said, their people were not being given what they called meaningful access to the counting process in order to observe it. And they were calling for a halt to the counting. That didn't happen, though. The counting continued. And the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, is calling this lawsuit frivolous. Here's some of what she said last night.
I think it's time that we all come together and not allow frivolous lawsuits or any effort to misinform the public about the truth behind our elections to succeed. And I will remain steadfastly determined in the days ahead to ensure we continue to correct false information and continue to tell the story, the extraordinary story of our elections here in Michigan this year.
Now to Arizona, where pro-Trump demonstrators gathered outside the building where votes are being counted in Maricopa County. At this hour, Joe Biden maintains a slight lead in that state, although the race has narrowed a bit. Jamie Yuccas spoke to Arizonans waiting for results.
Supporters of President Donald Trump voiced their frustration late Wednesday with the ballot counting process outside the Maricopa County Elections Department. The protests were largely peaceful, but police dressed in full tactical gear blocked entries to ensure the safety of those counting votes inside. They escorted employees to their cars once their shift was over. About a third of the crowd appeared to be armed, including Aaron Kotzbauer.
So are you guys hoping to get inside?
Oh, no, ma'am. No, just to voice our opinions.
And many expressed fears that their votes were not being counted.
They literally are trying to steal this from us.
Protesters are also concerned over a viral Facebook video where a voter claimed ballots weren't being counted because they were filled out with a Sharpie.
In Phoenix, Arizona, Trump supporters rallied last night outside the building where votes are being counted. It is crucial math. The state's 11 electoral college votes hang in the balance. According to the latest returns, Biden's lead has narrowed but appears to be holding. You were at that protest outside the vote counting center last night. Tell us what happened.
Absolutely. It actually began with a smaller group that made its way inside the vote count center and were alleging that their votes had been disqualified in spite of the fact that Arizona is very hard hit. You know, at least 26 people are dying here in Phoenix alone every single day. But besides the COVID issue, the primary issue for this crowd is they believe that their votes are being thrown away, cast aside, disqualified, and they believe Donald Trump should be elected here in this state. They look at that margin and are protesting quite loudly, waving flags, insisting that the vote here continue.
One of the things that we've seen is right now they're kneeling in prayer, but one of the things that we've seen is them chanting very loudly, count that vote, and then we've got poll workers that are coming off of shift, and the poll workers have to be escorted out by armed sheriff's deputies down those stairs and into vans and taken away from here. So this is the type of scene that we're seeing. We're going to get a little bit closer here. We don't want to get too close. A lot of people in the crowd are not wearing masks. We're keeping a respectful distance over here. A lot of times at these types of rallies, you see a lot of guns. You see a lot of people with long guns, long rifles slung over their shoulders. This is a open carry state, so it's totally legal. And we don't see any of that. So there are no people with guns that are out on display. We have seen a couple of people with bulletproof vests, tactical vests, up at the front of that crowd, but so far it's a very boisterous crowd, very aggressive. They've got bullhorns and they will let you know exactly how they feel. They think that this election is being stolen stolen from the president.
Gadi, let me also just ask you if there is a police presence there. You described some of the elections workers who are inside that building that is being sort of surrounded and screamed at by these Trump supporters. They've had to be escorted out by police officers or by law enforcement as they've come to their cars when they come to the end of their shift. Is there a visible police presence or sheriff's deputy presence in terms of protecting that site?
Yeah, if you permit me just for a second, I'm going to tell my crew, hey guys, we're going to go up, back up, because I want to show you exactly what it looks like from a higher vantage point here. Hold on real fast. Come by. Thanks so much. So this is some of the sheriff's protection around the building, and so you've got sheriff's officers that are positioned all around the building. They are blocking access, and they're also escorting people out. Howdy, thank you. And then
President Trump gained 10,000, towards Biden with these votes, and there's still now over 400,000 to do it. So if that's the way it's going, he's winning. All right, so why can't they just wait till the ballots are counted? I don't understand it. Why do you call a race like Arizona that you know has gone red for all these years, and all of a sudden you're anxious to call it a Biden, victory, when you got over 500,000 votes that haven't been counted in areas that are Trump country?
That's a fair point, and just as a subset to that, I'm sure you know this, but Fox News and the Associated Press are the only organizations that have called Arizona. ABC, NBC, CBS, they have not called Arizona.
I agree, and I'm upset with Fox. I think they've turned a little more liberal, and I've heard that from a lot of people.
I appreciate your time, Liz.
Okay, thank you. All right, but wouldn't we as Americans, want transparency? Wouldn't we as Americans deserve?
Arizona officials, I guess, what in your mind is not going right with how this is being carried out here?
I'm not really sure about that. I just want to put them on notice. I want to make sure that there isn't any room for for shenanigans. I can't say that I know specifically because I have to be in there where they count the ballots. But it's taking a long time. Also, one really important thing, they called Arizona for Joe Biden very early on, and we had more than 600,000 ballots. That is very suspicious in itself.
Fox News and the Associated Press called.
Whoever, including Fox News, there was a lot of pushback for that.
Okay, and you said no notable instances of fraud per se here. You want to put the state on notice. Do you believe that fraud is happening elsewhere in the country in the voting process?
Yes, just like back east, Michigan, Wisconsin. He was ahead. He was starting to show momentum. And then by the morning, all of a sudden, they stopped the voting, or stopped the counting, rather. And then in the morning, Biden has a big lead. That is kind of suspicious. And we've seen that movie before. We've seen other Congress people lose elections, similar circumstances. Where do you have 170,000 ballots just show up after the counting is stopped? We've just seen it too many times.
Michigan, off the top of my head, I don't know their procedure. In Pennsylvania, I know that they don't start counting the mail-in ballots until Election Day. So, this is what the polls were saying beforehand, that a large proportion of those ballots were believed to be leaning for the former vice president because of when they were cast. They don't start being counted until Election Day, and so that's why we're seeing these numbers come in now. I guess, what issue with that do you have?
I don't know that I have a specific issue with that. I have just seen in the past too many elections being stolen. And what about all these tranches of ballots being found here and there? And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of ballots.
Where are they being found?
I believe it was Michigan, where the 130,000 was around 130. It was over 100,000 ballots.
That hasn't been substantiated, ma'am. But
okay,
either way,
that's all right.
Either way,
that's okay.
Count the votes. The votes. 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 Count the votes. The votes.
I'm not kidding. That actually happened. And they did not notice that was hypocritical or ironic. They didn't even, they're like, of course, you got to stop the count in Pennsylvania and count all the votes in Arizona. Of course. I mean, John, is there a better description of the Republican Party under Donald Trump than that?
I think that the Republican mind is flexible in one particular way, in that it is empty, and thus, like a garden hose, when it's empty, it can be bent to whatever you need it to do.
Wow, what an analogy.
I know, I like that one. But anyway, yeah, so they're chanting the exact opposite thing, which that's one important thing to point out. But let's also point out that if you have massed a bunch of people outside of a ballot counting place and you're chanting, count the vote, that's what they're doing. Like literally, that's what they're doing right there. I mean, you can do it in like, sort of an encouraging way, like pop the popcorn, pop the popcorn. We know it's gonna happen. We just really want it. I don't get a lot of what's going on around this country right now.
Okay. So are you gonna get this on cable news? You ain't gonna get this. Pop the popcorn, pop. It actually reminds me of Community, if you remember, if you watched Community. Pop, pop. Pop, pop.
I don't.
Craig got it. Okay, so listen, I had focused on the un-American nature of the Pennsylvania chant. Like, stop counting, what are we, a democracy, right? But I don't think my take was that unique. Everybody notices that hypocrisy. But you're right, John, I had not thought of the superfluous and gratuitous nature of the chant in Arizona. Like, count the votes. Oh, mission accomplished. That's what we're in the middle of.
Yeah.
Okay. But the other important part of that is that there's no one on the other side. It's not like the Biden team is like, oh, stop the count in Arizona. No, they're like, yeah, go ahead, count.
Yeah.
And the Trump people must be like perplexed. They're like, wait, why don't you want to cheat?
Yeah.
Like, no, but because we believe in America?
All right, welcome everybody. We continue to try to, on the Daily Show, the podcast, etc., bring you sort of the latest news. Normally, this is not a program where if we wait 90 minutes, we might have something different to report to you. But because ballots are still being counted in a number of key states in the presidential election, and there are even things still happening at the Senate level and House level, we're trying to figure out how to bring you the latest information at whatever time we do it. And at this point in time, we do have changes to report to you from where we were yesterday. No winner has yet been declared in the presidential election between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Now, I'm going to get to the vote counts and to the scenarios momentarily, but what you must understand is that all of our worst worries about how Donald Trump would react have happened. We covered some of them yesterday, and we will cover some more of them today. Donald Trump, of course, declaring victory late Tuesday, early Wednesday, 2 a.m., saying we've won. Yesterday, Donald Trump and Eric Trump and Rudy Giuliani and others saying on Twitter, we won Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has not yet been called, and the margin, it continues to shrink away from Donald Trump's favor and in Joe Biden's favor, although Trump still leads, and I will show you what those numbers are. And the latest, which we will also be covering today extensively, is that the Trump campaign now claims to be filing multiple lawsuits in various states. In some states, we know that they've actually filed them. In others, they've said they are filing them, although we don't actually know. And we have heard from Joseph R. Biden Jr. as well. Joe Biden giving a short but very appropriate and, quite frankly, very presidential speech in Wilmington, Delaware yesterday. I don't even want to get ahead of myself at this point. There are lots of people who are very confident that Joe Biden is going to win. There are also a lot of people, including Trump's entire family, who claim that Trump has won. They believe Trump really won Nevada. They believe Trump won Georgia. They believe Trump won Pennsylvania. They even believe Trump won Michigan and even potentially Wisconsin, some of them are saying. So all we can do at this point in time is wait.
You want them to count them in certain places, but no, stop in the other places. It's bizarre. Right. Arizona.
Either you're for counting ballots or you're not, right?